Welcome back. Emmy Award-winning broadcaster Steve Adubato. He's sitting down for a one-on-one interview with New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, discussing a possible run for the White House, Bridgegate, and other key issues. He joins us now for a preview of what we're going to see tonight on Fios 1 New Jersey at 8 o'clock. So, Steve, after viewers watch your interview this evening with the governor, do you think they walk away saying, hey, I just heard from a guy who's running for president?
There's absolutely no doubt that after you watch the interview on Fios 1 that you'll see Chris Christie's running for president. I mean, he attacked President Obama on every level. He attacked him on leadership. He attacked him on ISIS. He attacked him on the Sony deal. He said the president wasn't tough enough on that. He criticized the president for saying Sony didn't call him. He said, basically implied that if he were the president, he would have reached out for Sony. He has criticized the president on so many levels. And frankly, you don't do that if you're not running for president. He came this close in our interview to actually announcing for president. There is no doubt that Chris Christie is running for the presidency of the United States, and the campaign has already started, but the official starting gun just hasn't gone off yet.
I also know you got into foreign affairs. I know you covered ISIS and the president's handling of it, but you also talked about Cuba with the governor. And tell our viewers who say, well, what is the governor of New Jersey? Why does it really matter what he has to say? Tell them why it's such an important topic, especially in New Jersey.
The Cuba issue has heated up in a big way, and it's important to New Jersey for a couple of reasons. The first is there are so many Cuban Americans living in New Jersey, disproportionately in Hudson County, where Fios 1 has a huge audience. But I'll also tell you this. Joanne Chesimard, 1973, convicted killer. I mean, she was a convicted cop killer. A state trooper was killed. Joanne Chesimard. She was convicted of that crime, served some time in prison, escaped in 1979. Where did she go? Cuba. She's kept as a political prisoner, if you will, asylum in Cuba. So all of a sudden, right before the interview, the president grants some sort of deal. They have some sort of deal with Cuba. It's hard to understand all the details, wants to normalize relations with Cuba. The president does that, but what happens to prisoners in the United States who are supposed to be serving, who killed state troopers like Joanne Chesimard? The governor says, wait a minute, time out. He writes a letter to the president, to Cuba, and says, we want Joanne Chesimard to come back to serve her time. And Cuba writes a letter back saying, no way, governor, you're not the president. We make the deal with you. Now, the governor, in my opinion, is going to put tremendous pressure on the White House, on President Obama, to put pressure on the Castros to release Joanne Chesimard, to come back to New Jersey to serve her time. Life in prison in New Jersey. And I don't think that the Castros are going to let her go, and Christie's not going to let this issue go. It's a huge issue, not just Cuba, but Joanne Chesimard in Cuba as a convicted cop killer.
So, Steve, what should viewers expect to hear tonight from the governor as it relates to Bridgegate?
You know, the Bridgegate issue is a fascinating one because I debated back and forth how I would deal with it. 2 weeks ago, I interviewed the United States Attorney for New Jersey, Paul Fishman. We didn't deal with Bridgegate because it's simple. His office is going to come down with a decision. What do I think? I don't have firsthand knowledge. I think there are going to be indictments. And so I didn't talk to Paul Fishman about Bridgegate because what's he going to tell me? What I asked the governor, and what you will see on Fios 1 is this. I said, Governor, I know you can't talk about it because clearly the U.S. Attorney, a job you know well, is going to make a decision. But what were the biggest lessons you learned in Bridgegate? And he said, you don't trust the closest people to you. He said, I was very trusting. I trusted these people. Some people lied to me, and I learned my lesson. That's as far as we went, because beyond that, I know the governor. What the governor was going to say is, I can't talk about it. There's a pending investigation. You know, as a former U.S. attorney, I can't talk about these things. And so we didn't go there, but I did ask him about Bridgegate in terms of the biggest lesson. I think after those indictments come down, then you will hear Chris Christie, in my opinion, then an official presidential candidate. He will have to speak about it.
And how about some of the other issues that folks tuning in at 8 o'clock tonight are going to hear about facing the Garden State this coming year?
One of the biggest issues that came up was how to close this massive pension gap. The fact that New Jersey public employees have been paying into the pension for a long time. The question is, when they retire, is the money going to be there for them? So I asked the governor, look, I talked to Senate President Steve Sweeney recently, who said, Governor, you broke the deal. You broke the deal, and you said that Democrats, Republicans came together, we would try to deal with this pension crisis. And Steve Sweeney told me in an interview, Governor, that you no longer are funding the pension with state money the way you said you would. Governor said, no way. Governor said, I would like to do it, but we don't have the money. I turned around and said, Sweeney said, you can raise the millionaire's tax. And all of a sudden, the governor said, that's what Democrats do. They talk about raising taxes all the time. Governor said there's no way he was going to raise the millionaire's tax, and it wouldn't even close the pension gap. That came up. The gas tax came up. We also talked about unemployment in New Jersey, moving the economy forward in New Jersey. And we also talked about how to protect cops against those who would really go after them, and whether it's open season on cops, given the Eric Garner situation and some of the protests going on. So it was a wide-ranging interview with the governor, and it's going to be a fascinating interview for FiOS One viewers.
Thank you very much, Steve. And be sure to tune in tonight, FiOS One New Jersey, 8 p.m. You can catch Steve's exclusive interview with Governor Christie. All right, we're going to have a look at news making headlines in the Hudson Valley when we come back.